Greetings everybody, and welcome to today's video, where we are going to be looking at yet another verse pertaining to women. A verse containing the statement, "The men have a degree above them," found in verse 228 of chapter 2. The verse deals with divorced women and how it is forbidden for them to hide that which God has created in their wombs. It is in this verse that we encounter this statement. A statement which has led to a lot of people accusing the Quran of setting out a hierarchical structure within a household, where the men are the head and women are under them. Those who argue for this hierarchical structure, as well as those who seek to criticize the Quran, use this statement in support of their argument. So let us take a look at the verse and try and see whether it supports this view. The verse reads as follows, "Divorced women shall wait by themselves for 3 cycles. And it is not permissible for them to hide what God has created in their wombs, if they truly have faith in God and the last day. Their husbands are more justified in taking them back in that case, if they should want reconciliation, and they have similar to that which is due upon them in good conscience, but the men have a degree above them, yet ultimately, it is God who is the one with the authority, wise." So, as we can see, the verse outlines a waiting period which divorced women are required to maintain before marrying again. Furthermore, they are instructed not to hide that which God has created in their wombs, if they truly do have faith in God and the last day. The verse also grants men justification in taking back their pregnant wives if they should want to reconcile with them. But the verse maintains that these pregnant wives also have the same right upon their husbands. However, the verse mentions that men have a degree above them. It is this statement that is the focus of this video. Is the verse saying that men have a degree over women in general? Or that men should be the head of the household? It is no secret that the Quran does indeed recognize the presence of a domestic hierarchy within the society in which the Quran was revealed, hence why the verses of the Quran are mainly addressed to men rather than to the women. The question is whether the Quran is mandating this hierarchy as the norm or as the prescribed structure by which families are to be structured. If not so, what then does the statement mean, and how can we understand it in our world today? One thing that is very important to note is the usage of the pronouns in the verse, as this will give us a clue on whether this statement is a general statement, or whether it is one that has to be relegated to its contextual reading. Since the verse begins with the statement, "Divorced women shall wait by themselves for 3 cycles. It can be safely correct to assume that the verse is addressed to the divorced women. This statement suggests that divorced women must wait by themselves for 3 menstrual cycles before marrying again. And the reason for this wait is hinted at in the following statement of the verse, which states, "And it is not permissible for them to hide that which God has created in their wombs, if they truly have faith in God and the last day." Thus, it can be concluded that this waiting period was mainly to determine whether the woman was pregnant or not. This particular injunction cautions these women who happen to find themselves to be pregnant during the waiting period, that they are not to hide what God has created in their wombs from their husbands, if they happen to be women of integrity. The sentence, "if they truly have faith in God and the last day," implies that if they truly do possess a level of integrity and a sense of accountability in relation to God and the last day, then they should not attempt to hide the news of their pregnancies from their ex-husbands. This caution is given due to the possibility of certain women who, due to their hatred and animosity towards their previous partners, might knowingly hide the news of their pregnancies from their ex-husbands. If there is another man in the picture with whom they wish to marry after the completion of their waiting period, they might find themselves being proposed to by other men during that period, and due to them fearing that their coming husbands might discover that they might be pregnant and thus choose not to marry them, would hide the news of their pregnancies from their coming husbands as well as from their ex-husbands. This type of behavior is a form of deceit, and it is one that God has cautioned women to be wary of. The statement is an appeal to women to set aside their emotions during this pivotal moment and not resort to a decision, which will have dire consequences for both the child's well-being and health. It is improper for a woman to hide a child from its biological father simply out of spite, or due to some other selfish reasons. When there is a child involved, then it is no longer about the individual, be it the father or the mother, rather, It then becomes about this new life that has been brought into the world. Those who have brought it into the world are expected to set aside their own needs for the sake of the child, as it did not choose to be brought into this world. Therefore, its well-being should supersede their needs as the parents. Bringing a child into the world should not be a decision which parents should take lightly or carelessly, especially if the parents find themselves in societies which are less fortunate than others. For this reason, the verse follows the previous statement with the statement, and their husbands are more justified in taking them back in that case, should they want reconciliation. This statement implies that if the husband discovers that the woman is pregnant after he has issued a divorce to her, then he is more justified in his reasoning to take her back, should he wish to reconcile with her. This statement should however not be misconstrued to mean that men are given the right to forcefully take back their wives against their will. It merely means that now that there is a child involved, the husband has more of a reason to ask for reconciliation with his ex-wife in order to provide the best home for the child, provided they can work out their differences and make peace between the two of them. Since there is a child, God advises the husband to consider the well-being of the child and reunite with the mother, as that will provide the child with a more stable household and ensure that the child does not grow up in a broken home. So, a husband may use the circumstance of the pregnancy as a bargaining chip to reconcile with his wife, and try and appeal to her sensibilities to consider what would be the best for the child. The same level of reasoning has likewise been extended to the women with the statement, and they, these pregnant women, likewise have the same as that which is due upon them, meaning that they too have the same exact bargaining chip with their ex-husbands, should they wish to reconcile with their husbands. So, they too can provide that as evidence and the more reason for why they should work on their marriage and stay together, in order to ensure that the child grows up in the best home possible. Both parents must set their feelings of animosity or disdain aside, and try and find a way to at least attempt at working on their marriage for the sake of the child. It is then in this context that the verse concludes by stating that the men have a degree over them. This statement has unfortunately been falsely taken to imply that men possess some sort of dominance over women in general, which is absolutely wrong. Notice the usage of the pronoun, them, in the statement. This is a reference to the pregnant women mentioned prior to this statement and not to all women in general, meaning that the men in this particular case have a degree over their pregnant ex-wives, as within that given society, they will most likely be the sole providers of the child, regardless of whether they reunite with their spouses or not. In other words, the degree above these women is merely in relation to the child, and it can only be pertaining to the material essential needs of the child, as well as responsibility, meaning that these men have more of a say in how their children are to be raised, as they are financially responsible for the child. The verse is not referring to other aspects of the relationship between men and women. Rather, it should strictly be reduced to its application in this case and not applied to every scenario, nor should it be abused by those men who seek to impose their authority on women. Anyway, that's all I have on this verse for now. I hope you all were able to follow along. Do remember to tune in on Fridays where we go through the Quran verse by verse and try and ponder over its message. Remember to subscribe to the channel and leave your comments down below. Peace and greetings to you all, and a blessed and happy new year.